Hello, my name's Dave. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you exactly how I do all of my motovlogs, so stick around. You never know, you might learn something, you may not. Who knows? Ride for life. So I'm pretty minimalist when it comes to motovlogging, to be honest. I find that I don't really need much tech. So this is what I've got. I've got two GoPro Hero 7 Blacks, I think they're called. I've had these since I started motorbike riding a couple of years ago. And I put one on my chin on my helmet with the mic adapter underneath it, just going to a little cheap microphone in my helmet. And I've got another one, which is the one I'm looking at now, which I just keep on a pole, so that when I'm at the events or meeting people, I can just pull it out of my pocket, say hello on camera. The only other thing that I've got that I use in the field is a drone, and it's a Mavic Air 2, I think it is. Proper good drone. I'm still getting the hang of using it, as you can see from the videos, but that's it. I just use two cameras and a drone, and before the drone I just had the two cameras. So that's my technical list. The way I edit my footage is using Final Cut Pro. So on an iMac, I've got an old 2011 iMac, which is quickly falling apart. But it does the job, so does Final Cut Pro. I think Final Cut Pro is the easiest editor to use when doing stuff like this. And the only other program I use is if there are any special trips. So for instance, the Scotland trips, what I will do is create an introduction at the start of the vlog for that, export that, drop it into Pro Tools and just write some music, some original music over the intro. So Pro Tools and Final Cut Pro, them are the only two programs that I use on my iMac. And then obviously straight out from there, straight up to YouTube. So if you're interested, what I'm going to do is actually edit my latest vlog, which I've got on the system, or I'll get on the system now, and I'll take you through it step by step, show exactly what I'm doing. All right, so let's get on with it. So step one then, obviously the first step is recording the vlog itself out on my two cameras. But when I get home, first thing I do is I want to be downloading the footage straight into Final Cut Pro and then remove it from the cameras, so the cameras are ready for the next time we go out. So let me just show you how we do that. So here's my iMac. So I'm going to open Final Cut Pro. I think it's Final Cut Pro 10. I think that's what I use. And the first thing I'm going to do is create a new event. Now the importance here is obviously the naming convention that you give it. I number all my vlogs, so it's quite easy for me to keep them sorted. So I'm going to label it, and then I'm going to customize the resolution. Now you want to make sure, well, I make sure that the resolution that I record on my cameras is exactly the same that's in Final Cut Pro. And the reason I do that is so I'm not losing quality by blowing things up or squashing pixels down, making it smaller. So that resolution there is, and frame rate is the exact same resolution that my cameras record at. Once I've got my event set up, I'm going to import media, plug my first camera in, and I'm just going to select all the footage and then bring it straight in to Final Cut Pro. It asks me at the top there which event I want to put it into, and I just make sure it's the right one, and I copy all the footage from the camera into the library, so straight to my hard disk. And there it will ask me if I want to create optimized media. So the reason you'd create optimized media is so that you can edit faster without any stutters in the footage, especially if you're doing 4K and stuff like that. Usually I don't use optimized media unless I've got a massive vlog like the Scottish vids and I want to get them beat perfect with music. Then I use proxy media, but usually I just use the raw footage that comes from the camera, and I always edit in ProRes 422 and export in ProRes 422 as well. So I'm just going to import the footage from the second camera. It doesn't go this quick in real life, by the way. I've speeded it up, would you believe? And once we've got all the footage, as long as the date and the times were right on the cameras, I can sort them by date and time. I can select all the footage from both cameras and literally just drag the whole lot straight onto the timeline where it will be in the correct order. Obviously, if the time and date's wrong on the cameras, that's not going to work, so you'll have to go by file name, which is a pain on GoPros, but I always check mine before I go out. So there you go, that's all the footage imported onto the timeline already. So the next thing I do then, I have a quick scrub through looking at the footage just to make sure it looks okay and it's got the audio there and all that stuff. And what I'll do is I'll pick one piece of footage and then I'll just change up the color values a little bit, give it a bit more saturation, a bit more depth and contrast, but nothing too mental. And what you can do is when you get the footage, so this is only a rough cut at the moment, you can look at the scopes there if you want to make sure you're not clipping out anywhere. Once I've got this looking okay, then what I'll do is I'll just copy the effects that I've put on that bit of footage and literally just paste it on all the other footage that's on that timeline. So you don't have to go in individually at the start. It's just a quick, rough, it looks okay sort of thing. I just copy and paste all the effects onto every clip in the timeline. There you go. So it's simply just edit, copy, and then edit, paste effects. If there's a specific, I mean, that will copy all effects from that one clip onto everything. If there's something specific that I want to copy out, like EQ for audio and stuff like that, you do paste attributes and just paste the EQ and leave the rest of it alone. But that's how easy it is really to do your color correction on Final Cut Pro as a rough draft. Okay, so just showing you there, you can actually select what you want to paste onto the other clips. I'm just going to say color. Boom. So every clip on the timeline now has got the exact same color profile. Okay, so the next job for me is to just get a first rough cut of the whole movie or the whole vlog. So what I'll do is I'll just flick my way through every clip, cutting out all the chaff and just leaving in you know, all the good stuff and all the talky stuff that needs to stay in there. And at this point it is just a really quick drag and drop you know, blade cutting exercise. And at this point I'm being really brutal in cutting stuff out, because otherwise these vlogs tend to go on for hours and hours, don't they? So I'm just cutting clips up here and taking bits out that I don't need or that I don't want in the vlog. Right, so that's the rough cut done, and it is rough, but I have been pretty brutal with it. What I do next is I go through the footage and I look for the handheld clips. So if I've took any clips on the handheld camera, I single those out. So I'll go through the timeline and just look for one of those, and you can see one here. And what I want to do is edit the audio from that camera, because that camera, when I'm holding it, it's got mics all over it. The mics are not brilliant at all. And depending on how far away it is from my face is how loud the audio is. So you can see from the footage on the screen from the timeline that the ones on the right where they're popping into the yellow and getting up to unity gain, you know, the 0 mark before it distorts, them are the ones from the helmet. The helmet camera just auto levels fine, so I don't need to touch that. I single out the footage on the handheld and you can see how low the footage is on that. So what I'm going to do is just do a little bit of work on the audio, and it is a little bit of work as well. So in Final Cut Pro you literally just select the clip, you go through the audio filters and things like that, and you can grab things like a limiter, so I can bring those levels of the voice up, and also a de-esser I can put on there as well if I need it. So let's just pop those on and show you the settings. So there's my limiter. There's the threshold. So that's the threshold is the point at which the limiter will start working. So because this audio is really low, if I bring that threshold down to where the highest peaks of that original audio was, the ceiling there, the second slider, will bring it up.
So it was Remembrance Day on Friday.
So that's the original. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to play with the settings until we get it in the yellow. But not too much, because otherwise it'll sound really boxy.
So it was Remembrance Day on Friday.
So there you go. Now you can see that the audio is on par with the other clips, and I'll just copy that effect and paste it to all the other clips with that camera. Okay, so this is me adding the de-esser to that that voice track there, and it just gets rid of the shs and the ts and the s's that mic seems to have a problem with. It just smooths them down a little bit so it doesn't hurt your ear holes.
Where we lay the wreaths, where our poppies. That day, on the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month. So it was Remembrance Day on Friday. So that day, on the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th.
Okay, so the next job that I do is, once I know the audio's fine and it's I've got a decent rough cut, what I'll do is I'll go through clip by clip and actually adjust the audio and the colour on a clip by clip basis. So if something's coming out really dark, I'll just brighten that up a little bit. If another clip's coming out too bright, I'll just dull that down. So I just do fine adjustments to the colour as I go through. I really don't spend too much time on that though, because the cameras are pretty good as they are. Okay, so another day, another dollar. It's took me a few weeks to get this done, so I'm dipping in and out, but here we go. The next part to this is I add my transitions between my clips, otherwise you get those pops in the audio between the clips that you see on a lot of motovlogs. In Final Cut Pro you can literally just, there are 100 different transitions in Final Cut Pro, but I just use the crossfade one, which just nicely crossfades, and when you drag and drop them onto your timeline you can adjust how long the crossfade goes for. Once I've got the one set up, I just hold down the Alt key on the keyboard and just drag and drop it between every other clip on the timeline. It's really, really simple in Final Cut Pro. There's no need to go back and check these because I know they're going to work. There's never any problems with the crossfades and stuff like that. The next job I perform is I've got an intro which has just got my text on it, you know, the number of my motovlog. I just copy that from my last video and paste it onto this one at the start, change the number, in this case to 129. And I also pre-made an outro at the end, so I can, so if somebody, you know, ever does get to the end of the video, it actually pops up the next video in the little window that I've left here. So this is a little template that YouTube just inserts the video at the end there, and I pop the outro in. And the last job is I just export the project, and I always export, like I say, using 422 ProRes. And my tip to you is export in the highest definition you possibly can. Okay, so the highest definition I can go is 422 ProRes, which usually gets it around 100 gigs, something like that. Sometimes less, sometimes a lot more, though. The Scotland ones were a couple of 100 gig, and I'll always export at ProRes because no matter how good the compression is on H.265 or H.264, you are losing so much. It still looks good on phones and stuff like that, but I only use H.265, 264 when I'm way over the gigabyte limit. I think it's 256 gigabytes in YouTube. If you go over that, it doesn't allow you to post the video. So I'll always keep it below that if I can, but if I've got a long video with loads of stuff in drone footage and actually, you know, which goes over that in ProRes 422, then I'll reluctantly export in H.264. Okay, I never use the presets on Final Cut Pro, and I don't think you should on any program. So this is, Final Cut Pro's actually got a preset that says upload straight to YouTube, and you give it your login details to YouTube and it'll post it straight up. but it always compresses it differently before it goes to YouTube because it's a YouTube preset. So I always export master file as if I'm going to export it to my computer disk, which I do, and then I upload that file to YouTube, and that's how the quality of my vids is usually pretty good. And then obviously once it's up there, YouTube's going to compress it again. So if you're compressing in 265 or 264, just know that when it goes up to YouTube, they're also going to compress it down, so you're going to lose even more quality. So the more gigs, the better. All right, well, I really hope you've enjoyed this and maybe learned something, maybe not. Like I say, it took me a couple of weeks to get this together, hence the shave and the new t-shirts and the camera moves. But it's now Christmas next week, so you have a wonderful Christmas, and I'll see you in the next vlog. All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye.